Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 77th episode of the podcast where we get a chance to talk to Joe Palumbo, head coach at Archbishop Spalding in Maryland. Coach Palumbo is going into his 10th year as the skipper of the Cavaliers. Joe Palumbo is the former University of Maryland baseball player where he's leading the Spalding program to 3 consecutive MIAA championships, number 1 rankings in Baltimore Sun in 2014, 15, 16, as well as a top 50 national ranking in USA Today in 15, 16, and 2019. In 2014, he was named Coach of the Year in the Baltimore Sun, Anne Arundel Capital-Gazette, and Co-Coach of the Year by Varsity Sports Network and the Maryland State Association of Baseball Coaches. 2016, he was awarded the 2016 Anne Arundel County Capital-Gazette Coach of the Year award, and in 2021, they won the MIAA regular season championship and was selected to the Anne Arundel County, again, Coach of the Year. He's now coached 38 players that have gone on to play collegiately, either Division 1, 2, or 3 levels. Coach Palumbo has a great reputation, built a very strong program at Archbishop Spalding, who the MIAA is one of the, arguably the, one of the most competitive, ultra-talented conferences in high school in our area, the Mid-Atlantic area. It's just year in and year out, and he talks about it in the show. I mean, they're seeing 90 nearly regularly at the high school level, and it's ultra competitive and it's extremely tough. And he talked a little about how his practice has changed, how his preparations changed, and how they're molding and evolving based off of the talent, and how it continues to stay competitive, very competitive. So just goes all throughout a program. And Coach Palumbo is a full program coach, and we get into basically his full year starting from the fall, even the things he tries to do in the summer through his camps and through his lifting, and but we get over his yearly program and touching base about his standards, as well as getting into little things of what he's doing at practice with his base running and with his infield defense, and just hit the ground running with the conversation. It was a lot of fun, and was looking forward to the conversation for a while, and glad we got to hook up. And so think you're going to enjoy this one, be ready to roll. Feel free to check him out. He puts his email in the show, as well as following those guys on Twitter. So another great follow is also with our Netting Pros guy, man. If you're not following Netting Pros or Will Miner and Netting Pros, they're improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting, backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and more. Will Miner, the Netting Pros guys, they continue to provide quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums throughout the country. Contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for all the latest products and projects. So again, can't thank Will Miner and those guys enough being part of the Netting Pros family chat. If you haven't checked all those other guys out, again, follow those guys on Twitter. And like I said, Coach Palumbo, great follow on Twitter. Archbishop Spalding, Cavaliers, Severn, Maryland. These guys do it right, man. So, without further ado, here he is, Coach Joe Palumbo.
10th year coming up, and I always say 10th year, but 9th season, unfortunately, with 2020 being canceled. But been at Spalding for 10 years.
Very cool. And you were there with your dad before that, right?
So actually, we were not there together. Obviously, he was the head coach in 11 and 12, but I was not on his staff or anything like that. In fact, one of my best friends, Will Smith, was on his staff and helped out. And when he left to go he's the principal and president at Pallotti High School now.
Okay.
And, so when he got that job, pretty early on in the school year, even before the baseball season started. So it was well known that 2012 was going to be his last year. coaching there. So everybody kind of started asking me, like, are you going to apply? And like the first person I asked, like, no, I don't think so. But then like so many people asked me, I figured, I might as well apply. And at the time I was 26 years old. So I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to get this job being, fairly young in the big scheme of things. But at the time, the AD, Jeff Parsons, he just finished his first year. And I was his first hire at Spalding, if I'm not mistaken. And I would say took a big risk, just not really, the Palumbos, obviously, whereas my brother graduated from Spalding and my dad coached there for a couple of years, but just me being young and with no head coaching experience at that level to speak of, he rolled the dice, and, I'm very thankful for that to this day. So, and been there ever since.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it definitely made a good move. I mean, it proof's in the pudding. But yeah, you're right, man. But that at that level, because like, man, I've come to appreciate, and especially because of my new perspective now and taking a step back from my team in high school, like, MIAA is just crazy competitive, and it definitely is a different level than the public schools, and because what you guys can do, and guys that get to come in there, and how you guys can like run a full program and things like that. You don't have the restrictions. The MIAA has a couple restrictions here and there. Don't get me wrong, but you guys have a lot less handcuffs than the public schools.
For sure. I think, I'm grateful for that. And it has helped, I think, elevate our league as a whole for, the past couple of decades. But yeah, I think the public school players kind of it's a disservice to them that they can't be with their coaches as much as they probably want to, and the coaches want to be with them. And, I would hope for their sake that, the public school association would maybe revisit that rule and let the coaches work with their kids a little bit more.
Yeah, or even just like you guys a schedule. Like what typically is like a schedule, like a normal schedule, that quote unquote average games that you would have in a season.
We have averaged close to 30, in my years there, and that's including a handful of playoff games. But yeah, we scrimmage a couple scrimmages in early March, and we try to pick up with, we had 16 league games this year, and we were very fortunate that our school and let us kind of play a full slate of games. So we picked up games. WCAC schools will play St. John's, we'll play DeMatha, Good Counsel. We picked up a game with Malvern Prep from Pennsylvania, Benedictine and Richmond. We put a doubleheader with them. So, we look to get around that 30 game mark as often as we can. Obviously, weather being an issue sometimes, but yeah, it's cool. We get to play 3 games a week, sometimes 4, and our guys like competing, and that's obviously what they want to do. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot of maybe a lot of games with somebody down south, but like for up here, like it's a lot of games. Like at the Northeast, playing starting in March, trying to be done by June. Like it's a lot of games, and it's awesome. I actually talked to Tommy. I gave Tommy like Martinsburg, West Virginia, Jefferson, West Virginia. Gave those numbers. I can actually forward you those numbers as well. Like those are great places to go, even just to go play. The great facilities, let alone their stadiums. And then let alone just the competition that they always have. Like they're really good, and those guys are always looking for out of conference games as well.
Okay, yeah, great.
Those guys play 40 games. West Virginia, they play a ton. But well, cool, man. This is awesome. We'll get into whatever you kind of wanted to get into, like kind of wherever the conversation rolls, man. Like, I mean, I've always, like I said, I've always just like looked afar from you guys, especially when you guys had that run. What was that 3 years in a row? Was it 15, 16, 17? Is that what it was?
It was 14, 15, 14. And 16. Yeah. And then 17, we were knocking on the door actually. And we were the 2 seed, and we were hosting the winners bracket championship game at our spot. And Loyola was hot. They got hot at the right time. And Mike brought them in, and it was a great game. They beat us 5-3. They had a really good team that year, and they went on to win the championship. So we were knocking on the door in 17 too. But 14, 15, and 16, we were on fire those 3 years. A lot of great players and great coaching staff to coach them up. So,
what do you think? Like looking at look at Spalding. Because like I said, I have like an outside looking in. Like, what do you feel like is the best thing about your program?
I think our standards are really high. And I think, one of the bullet points you had on the note sheet was just culture. I think it's a great word. And it's a word people throw around a lot. And what's important about it is learn how to build it.
Yeah.
You can have bad culture. And, I've been on a lot of baseball teams as a player, as a coach. And it's easy from the start to realize, to see, is this a good culture? Is this a bad culture?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the standards of a program are at the core of its culture. And, we have a culture of high standards, a culture of excellence, and that goes beyond the field. That, when I took the job at Spalding, I interviewed for the baseball coaching position first. And in that interview, I said, if I'm going to do this right, I would love a position in the school, because my standards for the student athletes are going to be high across the board. And if I'm not in the school with them to follow up and make sure they're doing things the right way in the classroom, in the weight room, in the hallways, with their uniform, to me, it doesn't matter what I tell them in the baseball field, because you build off of the small things. And I think over time, we've been able to build a culture of excellence and high standards, and that is known to the players. I think it's tied to recruiting. That was another bullet point on there. You got to make that very clear in the recruiting process. We do not hide that we have high standards at Spalding. And we want families, we want parents, and we want student athletes that are attracted to high standards. That way they're not surprised when they get there. And when I hold them accountable for the first time for their shirt being untucked in the hallways, at a private school, like, that's something that is important, believe it or not. And, so just when I hold them accountable for those small things, they're going to realize, okay, when he does that on the field too, that's just the standard that is here. And I have to make sure I'm working to that standard as often as I can be. And our players, they know that, they understand it. After a certain amount of time of being in our program, they appreciate it. They might not like it at first as freshmen. In fact, they might have frustrations about it by the time they're juniors, and they see a little bit more how the world works, both on and off the field. I think they come to appreciate, like, it's they're a part of something special because of those high expectations and those high standards.
Just a coaching thought is, how did these standards come to be? Is this something that you kind of gave the kids? I'm kind of thinking of in terms of that. Like, is it like just looking at how you did that? How did you build that?
Yeah. So we have a little theme, I guess, mission statement. It's very brief, 3 C's. It's character, commitment, and champions. And you just you start with the end, like, hey, do you want to be a champion? And I tell them, like, that doesn't mean necessarily we're going to lift the plaque at the end of the year, every year, right? But what it means is, like, other people want to be around you. Other people are attracted to the attributes, your attributes, the things that you, the way you live your life. Like, that's what it means for me, right? To be a champion is you are producing good things day in, day out in your lives. And in the short term, in the long term, right? Well, that starts with character. How are you making decisions? Are you doing it with your family in mind? Are you doing it with your teammates in mind? Or are you doing it with, selfish aspirations, right? How are you acting when I'm not around? I always tell our guys, if you're only working hard when I'm around, you're doing it wrong. Right. And that like, I can only take you so far. So I can get you good. Right. But if you're not working behind the scenes, it's hard to be great. And again, that kind of carries on to every aspect of life. Like, you got to be making good decisions. When nobody's looking. You got to be hitting the weights on a Saturday morning when nothing else is going on. You got to be committed to it, right? You got to be committed to that high character way of living. And I add a little S in that parentheses to commitment, because I also tell them, if you do those first two, right, you're going to have an opportunity to play in college if that's something you want. So you might be committing to a school that you want to go to, that you've dreamed of going to. And again, if you're living a high character life, if you're making good decisions, if you're committed to that on and off the field, that's what makes you a champion. So, I might not lay it out like that all the time for them to, just latch onto, but it's a process. And I have to harp on them very regularly, like it's going to get hard, right? They had the freshmen had their first day of school today, and I kind of asked them, met with them afterwards, and I said, was today? I said, are you guys tired right now? And they all raised their hand. I'm like, today was the easiest day of high school you're ever going to have. Like, you had classes and that's it. You get to go home now. I said, so, just remember that you're going to get tired. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be hard to make those good decisions sometimes. It's going to be hard to stay committed, but what is the end result you want? You want to be successful on and off the field. Like, you got to stay committed to it. So that's, those 3 C's, as it adds up to that 4th one, which is culture. And those expectations. So I think it now in year 10, it's certainly easier to have those conversations with the guys, with the track record we've had. Year 1 and 2 being 26, and my seniors being 17 and 18, they might have rolled their eyes and just say, yeah, I'm a senior. I've been here for 4 years. I might do it my way. Thankfully we didn't have that. They could have, but we had some good seniors and juniors that year, and we won a championship in 14. And I think it's just progressed since then. And the parents are very helpful in, I think, seeing the success of the program. It's not, I have to prove myself to the new class coming in every year. Like, they can look at the championships and the college commitments. But at the end of the day, like, they want those things to happen for them too. So I can't hang my hat on what happened in 14, 15, and 16. We want to do that again in 22, 23, 24. So I got to work hard too. Like, I have to be doing those things. It can't be all talk. That's like I said, I wanted to be in the school to show them, how to operate, how to be a good teacher, how to be a team player. I'm married with 4 kids. Like, I want my players to see that I'm a person of character with my family as well. So those 3 words aren't just baseball words. They're how we live our lives, how I strive to live my life, and how I want the players to do it. And that obviously breeds success on the baseball field too.
Absolutely. You're getting better people. Absolutely. Be a better person, be a better baseball player. 100%. That's awesome, man. What a great way. We're freaking rocking. Just put down and roll and put down the smoke right away, man. That's awesome. I guess the thing is, like, so, what was the evolution of the 3 C's? Was it like something that you kind of started right away, or did it kind of take a couple years and we're just hanging our hat on this like year 5 and we've got it, you got it in your classroom?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's not something I have in their face all the time.
Yeah.
It's honestly just kind of something I just kind of thought of in the last couple of years is like,
yeah.
We need something short.
Yeah.
That the guys, if I just say character, they know what I mean. Right?
Yeah.
I say, hey, I need you to be committed to this process. They know what I mean. Right. And obviously we talk about championships a lot and goals and, and at the end of the year, this year, right. We didn't win. We lost to Gilman, right. It didn't end the way we wanted it to end, but I told them, you're no less champions in my eyes. Like, you guys did everything I asked. Coming off of last year, it would have been very easy for our seniors to say, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't know if I want to be committed. I don't know if I want to get in the weight room during COVID, but they all worked hard. Like, and that mentality is what's going to make them successful in life. It's what's going to make them successful in college, on the field. So, it's not something that we're like plastering all over our dugout. It's just something that on a daily basis, we are talking about in different ways. And there's something that they can bite into behind it. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, if I say character commitment, championships all the time, eventually that runs its course and it doesn't have the same impact on the guys. But if we are giving them lessons on what character is, if we're giving them lessons on how being committed, what it looks like, and obviously examples of great people that have had success, in different areas of life, then that I think drives the point home of the messages we're trying to send to our players to be successful on and off the field.
Awesome. So, like, you talk about classroom settings, so are you talking about classroom settings that you're trying to bring that out, or is that just part of practice, or are you totally separate things?
Yeah, everything all the time. Weight room, it's it's all encompassing, and that's what you mentioned earlier. Is because we're in a private school league that allows us to have weight room sessions and a couple practices in the fall, during the week. We do have classroom sessions. You know how it is in baseball in March and February in this area.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the classroom as much as you're on the baseball field the first month of the season. It feels like sometimes.
Right.
You got to get creative. And shown videos of Lou Holtz talking to Texas football, or Inky Johnson. There's a lot of different things you can do to inspire kids in the classroom setting, but then when you're out on the field, like whether it's just taking practice seriously all the time, playing practice at game speed, like that's what commitment looks like. Committed to getting better every day. So it's not something, we are bringing that in both settings for sure. And and even when we talk about the classroom setting, like legitimate in at Spalding, like it's a challenging academic school. Like what, how you got to be, how do you have to be successful? What do you have to do to be successful? So, it's, I know my guys probably get tired of me talking about the weight room and the classroom, but it's, those things are important. And, if they want to go past Spalding in terms of their baseball career, those are things they need to be committed to. So it's all encompassing. We, one of my assistant coaches is an English teacher at school. So, they sometimes don't like the fact that they have two coaches on their coaching staff, holding them accountable in almost all aspects of their lives. But I think our parents appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sure. So speaking of that, like weightlifting and stuff like that. So, is that something you try to keep that all year round? Are you able to, your weightlifting program all year round? You like to do that, and how does it change throughout the year?
Yeah. So our weightlifting, we are very fortunate. We have a full-time strength conditioning coach at Spalding that works with all of the teams that want to utilize him. So yeah, we'll start lifting. We actually had a couple sessions a week over the summertime.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it's a little bit harder to manage just because the way how travel ball is nowadays.
Yeah.
People are traveling all over the place in different times in the summer, so it's kind of just opened up to anybody that wants to do it twice a week. But we'll start normal years. We'll start full go. Second week of school in September. We'll go 3 days a week, pretty much up to Christmas break. Take a little bit of a break then. And that first couple weeks, our strength coach tests them out. Where are they? How strong are they? Because he will then make a program specific for each guy and what weights to be doing for each exercise.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And it's actually it's more of a early fall, later fall. It's more of a general strength building. But then as we get into this, later winter, approaching tryouts and the season, it gets more movement specific to baseball, like core work, shoulder protection work. It's actually been awesome for injury prevention as well. So, and he talks about that a lot. Our strength coaches, the movements are designed to protect you from injury. So, we talk about how if you do things wrong, it can have a negative benefit, a negative reaction, and it can cause harm. So we put a huge emphasis on movements and doing the exercises the right way, and then building strength once the movements are where they should be. So, it's one of our programs that we take very seriously. I'll be honest, when I got to college at Maryland, I was, and I tell our guys this, I was not prepared for the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
It was a rude awakening, and it took me a while to get kind of caught up to the rest of the freshmen, much less the seniors that I was competing against. And I just told our players when I got to Spalding, I said, I never want you to feel like I felt my first day at the weight room at Maryland. So we're going to put an emphasis on this so that you guys are the most comfortable people in the weight room when you get to your college campus and not the most uncomfortable person in the weight room like I was.
That's smart. That's smart. I mean, that's the way. Has it always been like that? Is that, I guess, since you kind of had that feeling, have you been able to utilize this program since the start?
Yeah, we've pretty much since year one.
Wow, that's great.
The program itself has evolved in a number of ways. The main one being since my first year at Spalding, we have pretty much completely renovated the weight room space to make it more of an athletic, weight room. We have, platforms, squat racks, 2 sets of dumbbells. And that was all done, I want to say year 4 or 5 when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had some great additions in terms of the staff that was hired to run the weight room. So, the emphasis on it has been there from the get-go. The resource and the efficiency of the program itself has I think gotten exponentially better since our first year.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, do you have to be as hands-on and say, "Hey, I need this guy to program certain things," or is it basically with the staff now? You just kind of let them. You just kind of help facilitate.
Yeah, we meet. So I met with the strength coach, the head strength coach, for the first time in early July, probably mid-July, and we just kind of discussed some of the things that we wanted to accomplish, because we have, obviously, it's a wide range of guys in the high school, right? You got freshmen who have never touched a weight before. You have seniors who have been doing it hardcore for 2 years and are strong and physically more mature and ready for probably whatever the coach is going to throw at them. So we are cognizant of that, and we obviously put a little bit more emphasis of form and movement with the young guys. And so he has a feel for who those guys are, and I kind of tell them, we're who can do a little bit more, but at the end of the day, the goal is the same: injury prevention, strength building for everybody. So he puts together the program, right? It is his program. He's very knowledgeable, certified strength coach. He actually interned and did some college baseball work in his prior experience. So we are very blessed to have a guy like that running our weight room. And then I am just there to, yes, help facilitate, keep eyes on the guys. Obviously, my experience in that is just by doing it in college and then being in the weight room with the guys and learning from our strength coaches the past 10 years. And just making sure the guys are spotting each other, making sure the form's right. So I am at, I would say, 99% of our lifts, just making sure guys are doing things the right way.
Yeah, that's nice. Super nice. Good luck. Are you how do you I guess you manage them because you have others. Do you have guys playing multi-sports, different sports?
We do. Yeah. So that's kind of goes back to my playing days and my background. So I am one of four boys, right? My parents had 4 boys, and we competed with each other at everything. And whether it was soccer, flag football, wiffle ball, basketball in the backyard. So we just loved playing sports. So that then developed a love for everything. Me and 2 of my brothers played basketball and baseball in high school. My oldest brother played soccer and baseball in high school. All 4 of us played Division I baseball. One of my brothers played basketball and baseball. So we love all sports. I'm a big believer in multi-sport athletes. As much as I love baseball, I think some guys benefit from a break and playing basketball. I think that you can learn different things from different coaches. I think you can learn different things from different sports. I think there is I think a football player or a wrestler or a hockey player learns physical toughness better than they can on a baseball field. Like, you got to be physically tough to play baseball, but not as physically tough to play football or wrestle or play hockey. I think I was a really good infielder because I had to play defense on some of the best basketball players in the country when I was in high school.
Right.
So my side-to-side movement became really good because I had to play defense, right? I had to learn to slide. I had to learn to cut quick. That, I think, made me a better shortstop, a better second baseman. So, I support guys wholeheartedly. Some of my best players at Spalding have been 3-sport players, actually. So, I encourage it. Hold my breath a little bit when they're playing football. It's not fun to watch some of your best players play football on Friday nights, getting hit by big guys. But we are a school of about 550 boys in a co-ed school, right? And so we need our best athletes playing multiple sports if we want our programs to be successful. And that's been the case, since I've been there with some of my best players.
Oh, for sure. No, I agree. I mean, I was a big soccer player. I played soccer as well as basketball. I remember playing Tremaine Robinson from Spalding, who was unbelievable. Played against him in college. I went to Goretti, so
Okay.
we played in the BCL. So
yeah,
Tremaine Robinson back in the day was unbelievable from Spalding, and that's definitely, man. There's definitely parts of that. You think about even now, like a lot of guys are bringing in the soccer ball to hit because your plant foot, the way that you kind of like, drive through your front leg is kind of like how you kick a soccer ball, so there's a lot of cross training like that people get into. But I was just wondering how you get into that, because that's always a challenge in high school. Like you're not going to have everybody there. You got guys playing sports and playing those sports and things like that. So it's definitely something, a challenge.
For sure. There's some, I believe in it, but believe me, it has its negative. Even my younger brother, so I'm the third of the four. My younger brother went to Spalding and played basketball and baseball. Very good baseball player. He was already committed to George Mason. He tore his ACL his senior year of basketball, so he missed his whole senior baseball season. So, that's the kind of thing that's in the back of your mind. Obviously, you never want that to happen, but.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you got to let the kids also do what they love to do. So I loved playing basketball.
Me too.
If I was not 5'10", I might have pursued basketball past high school. But I was built a little bit more for baseball, but I loved playing basketball, and I personally, knowing how much I loved playing basketball, I would not have liked if my baseball coach told me you can't play basketball. So, just understanding that and they want to play, they play. If they're good enough to play, they'll play.
No, I agree. No, I agree. I do. I love the game. If you ask me, what up sport? I mean, I love to play basketball. Baseball was just some place I could go full farther, knew the game a little bit more, but I was definitely built 5'5" on a 5'6" on a good day, but mostly 5'5", and so basketball was definitely something that was very tough, but it was just a fun game to play, and a great game. So I agree. But just knowing what those challenges are, when you have guys, and especially at a smaller school, or guys, our guys are going to play multi-sports, and and even though you have the luxury of working with kids all the time, they're not always, you're not always going to be there, just for the fact of they're playing other sports.
Right.
So really cool, man. Really cool. When you're saying, you were talking about just with your younger kids, and so you've gotten through your year, you've gotten through your 3 days a week up till Christmas break, will you then transition into your baseball workouts? I mean, I know you have fall ball right now too. So what is your timeline then with fall ball? How do you kind of do they work together hand in hand with those 3 days a week? So will you go certain fall balls to a certain time? How does your timeline look like that?
Yeah, so we'll start we'll take advantage of those time slots that we're allowed to have with the guys on the field too.
Yeah.
So we'll have an offensive day, we'll have a defensive day throughout the week on the field. In addition to those 3 weight room sessions, we'll do some speed and agility work as well, explosive movement work with our guys throughout the fall. And we will shut down the baseball activities at the end of October, and then kind of refocus to the weight room again. That's when the weight room sessions get a little bit more rigorous. The guys are done playing the fall ball season. They're not traveling anymore on the weekends, not as much at least. We'll get in past years, we've mixed in like a yoga session with the guys as well, get their flexibility up and get their body in right positions as well. So that'll take us up through midterms, which we have, Christmas break really, obviously, take a break for Christmas break. A couple guys might do some optional lifts over the break. When we get back in January, we start the baseball activities back up again. So those, the build up, the throwing program, build up for pitchers will start. We'll go indoors 2 days a week again, up until the middle of February. So that's the other aspect of our league that is a little bit different. We start in mid-February with our tryouts now. We might not be inside, but we can go 5 days a week at that point, regardless of where we are, to kind of get ready for our game season. So, we'll go 2 days a week indoors somewhere. If it's, the weather here is always questionable. So it might be 65 degrees on a January day. So we'll go to the field and hit in the cages if it's nice outside. If not, we'll go inside. But that'll pick up mid-January after our midterms. So once midterms are over, we start our baseball activities again. The weight room really never stops until, even in the season, we try to get in there once a week. It's hard sometimes, but we try to keep even that going through the season if we can.
Where do you find time to do that? Like, do you find time to do it like on like rain delays? You try to do it in the mornings or just maybe after games, like the next day?
Yeah. So that's been our probably biggest challenge in terms of just scheduling, getting in there. But yeah, we'll try to get, if the forecast doesn't look good. So I always joke, I said, baseball coaches they're part weathermen too. They got to predict the weather sometimes to set up pitching or weight room sessions. But so yeah, if it's not looking good weather-wise, I'll reach out to the strength coach and say, hey, can we get in there and take advantage of that time? Sometimes it just might be a Sunday afternoon potentially. It might be after practice one day just to get and at that point it's more of a maintenance lift. It's not, we're not going heavy. It's a deep stretch, lift more than anything. So but that is hard to find time for that in season. I'm a big believer in getting good sleep, so we don't do too much morning work at Spalding, to be honest. I want, they're still growing. I want them to get that 7.5, 8 hours. And if I'm getting them up at 5 o'clock in the morning, some kids are taking three AP classes. And so we do our work in the afternoons and evenings. So we do not do too much morning work, but that would probably be the best solution, to be honest with you. That is what a lot of coaches decide to do. And, it's not, I'm not against it. I just, it's not something that we have done in the past.
Yeah. And it's understandable, especially as, like you said, it's an academic challenging school and you know your kids better than anybody. So yeah, it's super, super good. Al has looking into I'm just thinking of, because I just know, when you're inside, we have to be creative during that mid-January. Like I said, you guys get a chance to go outside when you might have it. But what do you guys tailor into that build up, kind of like your on-ramp stuff? How has that changed throughout the years? If you've gotten to a certain program, do you buy into certain philosophies? Take us through a little bit of what does that look like? Because, in the Northeast, it's really important, especially because we're inside so much. And guys are shutting down, like you said, during the January, November, December, January months. And how do you bring your guys back up to get ready for that, mid-March games?
Yeah, mid-March, second week of March is when we start probably non-conference games. But yeah, it's a great question. And we have gotten creative. I think that's probably where I have evolved the most as a coach is our indoor work. How can we be productive? How can we be efficient? How can we develop our guys inside? I think, outside, a lot of great baseball guys. It's easy to have an outside practice. How good can your indoor practices be? So coaches, I think if you can evolve and adapt to being indoors and really get good work in, that can be a separator for programs. So, our infielders can get a lot of work in. I essentially design my infield work that you don't need much space. Like you could do it in your garage and be ready to go play games in March if you really had to. Obviously, everybody likes getting fungos and that nature, but you can work hands, you can work feet, you can work exchanges, you can work a lot of different things in a small space. So that part of our program has definitely evolved in terms of hitting. We go back to the basics every January. Foundation, separation drills, launch position drills, med ball drills, into top hand drills, into short bat drills, into front toss, gap to gap drills. I always tell our guys, if you can't backspin 7 out of 10 balls to the back of the cage, I'm not sure if I can keep you on the team. So we do a lot of tee work, ton of tee work. Once you're backspinning balls off the tee, then we can move to front toss. Once we can pepper the top of the screen on front toss, then we can move to overhand. Once we can do that, then we can move on to the machine. Once you're timing up the machine, then we're ready. Now we'll go to live AB. So that's kind of how we build up and progress on the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, even then we'll do live ABs inside, because that brings up the next part of the equation, though, our pitchers. So our pitchers, we are lucky. One of our alums is an awesome pitching coach. Mm-hmm. So while I believe in our pitching coach, and he's an alum as well, our pitching coach is a great pitching coach. One of our alums is a private pitching instructor in the state, and he works with a handful of our guys in the off season. And he's somebody that I trust. He does a really good job of keeping them learning, developing, not overusing them leading up to the season. So a lot of them kind of build up on their own into that January, so that when we get to that, they've done a lot of them are on drive line on their own. They have their weighted balls. They have they have their band work. So that's obviously something that they're doing leading up to the season. It's hard to long toss. It's probably the biggest challenge of that indoor. Same thing is convincing our guys, yeah, it's 35 degrees, but we need to get outside and start extending a little bit. Even though nobody wants to be out there, because eventually we need to get into flat ground work, right? And then the flat ground work for a couple of weeks in mid to late January, we get into short bullpen work, then we get into longer bullpen work, and by the time we get into March, we're able to have them throwing an inning or two in an inter squad. Our pitchers' first starts are 45 max, and they're out. It could be Calvert. Like our first game was Calvert Hall this year. We scrimmaged Malvern Prep, like I said. Our first game was Calvert Hall, and I think everybody knows those games have been pretty awesome over the past couple of years, past couple of decades, really. But so you want to win, but at the same time, like at times as coaches, we got to pull ourselves back and say, hey, this is game 1 of 16 in the league, 1 of 30, and then got playoffs after that. Like, you want your best guys sharp at the end of the year. So our guys go 45, they're done, maybe 50, finish the batter, whatever it is. And then we'll build them up to 70 after that. Maybe their third start to 70. And then we get them to 95, and I think we had one guy go over 100 this year, just because it's kind of our philosophy. And, we've kept our arms healthy for the most part. In fact, I always knock on wood. I can't really remember a serious arm injury in terms of our pitching staff. So it has worked in the past years, and our guys tend to be better at the end of the year and feel good and feel strong and feel healthy. So I think that's because of the build-up work and the staggering to that long start.
Yeah, then mixing in the good weightlifting program that you guys have year round, that's definitely very helpful for sure. Just the recovery process. But yeah, most people are just gonna still run guys out there for their first game and not care. And it's great that you guys have a plan for that, and especially in our area, it's cold. And that first game could be 35 degrees, it's the wind chill could be ridiculous. And Yeah, it could be 72, but
Yeah.
but yeah, there's days where it's just bitter cold.
Yeah, and for sure. And sometimes get questioned, and even the inner competitiveness inside of me, man, I want to run this guy out for the fourth and fifth inning, but you gotta let the experience, let the positive experience of, okay, we know this works long term, and like I said, we want our guys staying healthy and leaving healthy. So that's been our philosophy.
Awesome. Very cool. So you talked a little bit about, like, I guess, your offensive stuff and kind of how you're building up to that, and I'm just thinking about, is because you've had a good run of teams. So, like, has kind of your offensive philosophies kind of stayed the same? It sounds like, pitching, you've kind of had this process down. It's working. You keep it rolling. Is that the same kind of thing offensively? I mean, things have changed throughout the years, especially in the last 10 years. You think about where hitting's changed and the conversations that we're having now. Like, how have you evolved in that process?
Yeah. I think our general philosophy has stayed pretty consistent. Now, our general hitting philosophy is, what are you good at? What gets you on second base?
That's absolutely, amen.
So, if you're a 5'8" speedster, we're going to teach you to bunt, right? We're going to teach you to handle the bat. We're going to teach you to put the ball on the ground. If you're a 6'5" lefty who can flick it out to right field at our field, we're going to let you try that for a long time and get you stronger, get you in the weight room, mold the swing, get you on time, teach you how to hit breaking balls. So it's not, we talk about approach a lot. We talk about getting good pitches a lot. We talk about what your job is a lot. So, we have a general philosophy of what can we make you good at, what's going to make you successful. So it's not going to be the same for every guy. In fact, it's going to be different for probably everybody. But, our philosophy really is just put pressure on them consistently, right? We're looking for quality at bats. We're looking for guys to be on time with their plan, right? I always tell our guys, you have to have a plan and you have to stick to that plan. If you stick to that plan, there's a better chance that you execute that plan. If you execute your plan, there's a better chance to get a hit. And that's the bad thing about baseball. On the offensive side, you can do everything right, and shortstop catches a smoke line drive at him. So, but in terms of teaching hitting, we like I said, we break down the fundamentals. We get a lot of tee work, and we're gonna play to guys' strengths. If the bunt is going to help us win a game, 1 through 9 can bunt on our team. Like, some of my best bunters in the past years at Spalding have been our best power hitters, just because they it's the strange thing. Big power hitters, they like to show you that they can bunt. It's like, hey, coach, look at this, and they put down a perfect drag bunt. And you're like, yeah, man, that's awesome, good job. So I said, you can try that if you want a game, but keep hitting the ball off the net in right field.
That's right.
And then the opposite guys, like the guys that I need to learn, that need to bunt for base hit, they're trying to hit the ball as high as they can in the air, and you're like, no, we need to switch this around. But I think in general, your team should kind of guide your philosophy. Like, if I take 9 power hitters in my lineup and I want them to hit and run and put pressure on them, we're probably not going to be very good. And if I take 9 guys that are built like me and I expect them to hit 5 or 6 home runs and 10 doubles a year, we're probably not going to be very good either. So you have to, as much as we recruit, and we do, we don't always get every guy that we want. So we have to coach the guys that we have. And some are going to be 5'8" speedsters, some are going to be 6'5" power hitters, and we have to be able to coach offense to both of those guys in different ways to help them be successful, because that's going to make us successful in the long haul. And if you can look at our stats, the runs scored every year, they're probably very similar. We've done it in different ways each year. We've hit home runs. We've hit 20 plus home runs in a year. We bunt with first and second, nobody out 99 times out of 100, right? Like it just depends on who's up. It depends on the roster that we have. It depends on what weaknesses and strengths guys have. So, but we want to be competitive in the box. And so we talk, like I said, we talk about approach a lot. We talk about the mental side of hitting a lot in season, because this is the first time for our guys offensively to where it's like it's 85 plus consistently, and we've seen 93 plus pretty consistently, the past few years in our league, which is awesome. And so that with that advance in pitching, the offense has to make adjustments, and the big part of that is the mental side of hitting. And I can kind of go into a little bit more detail if you want me to, but that starts with having an approach and sticking to it, like I said. So it's challenging to coach hitting to guys facing that jump in velo for the first time in their career. Like the guys in college, it's kind of expected, but at our level, it's like it's the first time they're really seeing it on a consistent basis, and you're kind of seeing how they handle that adversity to fail more than they succeed in the box, and then to help them overcome that with the mental side and the approach.
Where do you find the time to do that? Like within the mentality, is that something that will you segment it during practice, or do you have to have a separate classroom session?
Yeah, we will. I will focus on that in practice a lot. And really post game we'll talk about it sometimes. But really in practice, the reason the post game is you can take examples from the game and say, here's where our approach broke down, right? Here's why we got beat in this situation. And, some coaches might say, yeah, you do that after a game. I do, because it's fresh in our mind. It's a teachable moment in my opinion, that like, here's why we were successful. Here's where we need to get better. Here's how we do that. And then that way the guys kind of know the next day what might be coming at practice, and they can mentally prepare for that. But yeah, we will have, I'll take a group of guys, we'll talk about it. It's still something we focus on in the winter too, because that's something you can hone, just like your swing. The mental side is something you can hone. I think your approach, especially returning varsity guys, they might have had a great year as a junior because they saw a lot of fastballs. Well, what adjustments are you going to make now? Right? How are you going to adjust to the adjustments that the pitchers and the other coaches are going to make? I always tell our players, like, the other coaches in our league, they're really good coaches too. They're not going to let you beat them the same way in a season. Like, we need to make adjustments to their adjustments. So, having those conversations early is important. Working on hitting breaking balls, talking about hitters counts versus pitchers counts, talking about 2-strike approaches, what they should be looking for in certain situations. All of those conversations are had during BP. We work on them during BP. We have situational rounds based on count. Hey, it's 3-1 count here, and I'll ask, what are you looking for? So they have to tell me what they're looking for exactly, so I know out of the pitcher's hand whether they should be swinging at it. So, have a plan, stick to your plan. So if they're telling me I'm looking for middle away fastball, and our coach throws a 2-seamer on the hands and they swing, I'm going to say, you went away from your approach, right? Stick to your approach. It's never a bad thing to get beat with 2 strikes, right? But we should not get beat in hitters counts. Like that's kind of one of our philosophies. And again, that might mean different things for different people. Mm-hmm. If a player says, Coach, I'm looking breaking ball here in this situation, 1-1, I'm looking breaking ball. Okay, that's a plan. Just make sure you stick to it. 2-0, Coach, I'm looking for dead red. Okay, that's a plan. Stick to it, right? No, don't swing at the slider. That's easier said than done. Believe me.
Yeah.
I know that. That's easier said than done. But, just that's what's going to help them be successful against those elite arms that we see on a regular basis. Because if you just go up there thinking, I'm going to wait and see if it's a good pitch, well, 85 plus is by you by the time you see it. So you better have a better plan than that.
Yeah. How has your practice, like you said, with the big jump in velo and knowing the arms that's come through there, how has your practice changed just kind of getting ready for that?
Yeah, we might say it's unconventional, but we will have regular BP days. We will have velo BP days, and the velo BP days they're not comfortable for our hitters, and we are blessed with young coaches that are willing to do that for us. And so we'll put the L screen or a machine. We'll put a live coach pitcher fairly close, and or a machine, and either one will ramp it up. And I will just tell the guys, don't get beat with a fastball. And that's obviously in preparation for, again, some of the arms that we're going to see in our league. And it has proven to be effective, but on other days we'll say, hey, we're working breaking balls today. We hit the guy throwing 93 earlier in the season. They're probably going to come with more breaking balls this time around. So let's work on that. It is dependent on what we think we're seeing that day, or the next day, I should say. So it's not the normal, like, here's your 5 rounds right down the middle. Mm-hmm. We mix it up a lot with machines, with live arms. We'll put, maybe a pitcher hasn't thrown live in a game in a while, and we need to get him game reps. So we might put him at the base of the mound, so it's a little bit more velo but it's also live arm action. The ball is running a little bit more than, say, a BP pitcher would be. So we mix it up a lot on our offensive work to get ready for game reps, and it has helped, I think, our guys be better hitters against better pitchers. They don't like it at the time.
Sure.
They really don't. And but I tell them, hey, I don't care if you can go 3 for 4 in batting practice. That doesn't matter to me, right? We're trying to prepare you for something better. We're trying to prepare you for success when it really matters, and when people are watching, when college coaches are watching. That's why we're doing this. So just stick to the plan, work through the
commitment.
Yeah, right. Commit to the process, commit to what we're trying to do. And if you do that, success will come.
Mm-hmm. So BP is a pretty big part of your practice.
Yes, it is.
So that all just takes time, what I mean? Like, to have guys out there slinging it, playing live. It just, for baseball, it's not the basketball practices, so it just takes time. So I just feel like that's probably a big part of your practice.
It is, yeah. It takes time. We, our I would say our normal batting practice routine, which involves live, it involves so group hitting live. It involves a group getting live base running reads at each spot, situationals at first, live batted ball reads at second base, and then they'll also get live batted ball reads at third base. You're working different reads, different outs, different situations. We have a group at their defensive position getting live reads and or fungos off the live reads off the bat and or fungos. We have a shag group, and then we have a group getting their working in the cages. That would be tee work, front toss work, maybe feel overhand live feel swings as well. So we got a lot going on during our batting practice, and it'll run 50 minutes to an hour for sure.
Yeah,
to get a good one in, using probably multiple. We got a couple rubber arm BP throwers that we're blessed to have, and one of those is lefty. 2 of those are righty. So we have both arms throwing BP, so that guys get looks from both sides. So it's it is a big part of what we do, obviously, and has helped us to put up runs over the years.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. Awesome. Oh man. Super cool. Dude, buddy, BP. I'm just thinking about BP more. It's fun.
We save that for the end of practice because that's the fun. That is the fun part.
Yeah, that's like it's fun, man. It's definitely fun.
And it is like even the guys and even the guys in the outfield shagging, they like it, they love it, and I always tell them actually. My sophomore year at Maryland, I was an infielder and I was second on the depth chart at like all three infield positions. And one day at practice, I was just shagging the outfield and I was catching everything. And the coach said, "Think you can play left field?" I said, "Yes." I'd never played left field in my life. And I wanted to play. So, and I tell them, like, even the smallest thing like shagging, if you do it the right way, you can find something good will happen. Because I said that happened to me. And we have infielders play outfield all the time. And because I always tell them, if you hit, you're gonna play.
You're gonna find a spot. That's for sure.
I don't care if you've never played outfield in life. Like, we can teach you to catch a fly ball pretty easily. If you can hit, you're gonna play. So, and even our pitchers take that to heart. They're like shagging the balls hard and catching everything. And so yeah, it's just like BP's. I think the more relaxed part of practice that guys have fun, move around, fly around. So yeah, it's we save that for the end usually.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the best part of your practice? I mean, like, you guys don't get as good as you are without just like show. I know you guys are recruit. Don't get me wrong, but your whole conference recruits. You know what I mean? So what are you doing? Like, what do you feel like the best thing you do at practice to kind of get these guys where they are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly think it's our defensive side of things.
Wow, cool.
Yeah,
because I've heard you hear about the hitting, you hear about the pitching. You guys know, like, but yeah, that's
we
cool,
we put a premium on handling the baseball. So we practice it a lot. Like I always tell our guys, if we give up 0 runs, we can't lose. Yeah. So if you get really good at pitching and handling the baseball and catching it and throwing it, like you got a good chance to win. If you give up 0 runs, you can't lose. If you give up 1 or 2, you're going to win, the majority of your games. So from our throwing program our practice is broken down. They do their dynamic stretch, their static stretch. They do their band works. And then we get into our throwing program. And if they're talking about during throwing program, we'll start over practice. Like, it's not, I tell campers this, I tell our guys, like, it's not a lackadaisical time of practice. That is a time to build arm strength. It is a time to get your arm loose. It is a time to work on position-specific exchanges. And honestly, the ball shouldn't touch the ground. Like that should be your goal at this point. Does it happen all the time? No. Is it a good goal? It's a good goal. And obviously, if they're long tossing, one hopping, that's one thing. But if they're 60 to 140, 150, the ball really shouldn't be touching the ground if we were going to be really good at handling the baseball. So, we put an emphasis on that, and then we get into team defense. And honestly, our team defense is just me trying to put as much pressure on them to handle the baseball in bunt coverages, first and thirds, pickoff plays, rundowns, and cuts and relays. And if they can handle what we do in practice, whatever comes in the game, 99% of the time, we're going to handle easy. And, sometimes it goes awry. Sometimes it won't play well. That happened actually in the championship game. It's our worst defensive game of the year. But, really, if you take a look at our year last year, we were extremely good defensively, like really, really good. Probably the best team that I've ever had defensively across the board. And we try to make them uncomfortable in our team defensive sessions. And it's a mental thing and a physical thing. If they know our team defenses and what we're trying to execute in each spot, it's going to make it easier to handle the baseball and make the right read, make the right throw. Everything will fall into place after that. And then we get into our individual defense. So our outfield coach takes our outfielders. I will take this past year, I took catchers. On previous years, I've been working with infielders. And then our pitching coach takes the pitchers. They work on their pickoffs. They work on their bunts. Infielders get their touches in. They go through their routine that they have. Catchers, like everybody has their preliminary fundamental drills that they do. And then after that, each practice will work on something different. So, our practices are pretty lengthy, but they are efficient. And we can do all of the things that we've been talking about here in about 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So they're lengthy, right? So like an eighth grader coming in, one of our first practices, they're maybe dragging it the first, couple practices and getting used to things. But so I think that's probably where we put the most emphasis on our team is handle the baseball, right? Pick it up, throw it across. Like if we are really good at the fundamental, we're going to be hard to beat. We have really good pitchers. So, if we throw strikes, if we make the routine plays in the infield, if we catch the ball when it's in the air, if we get the first out on a double play ball, like if we do all those fundamental things defensively, we're going to give up those 0-1-2 runs, and we're going to have a chance to win a lot of games if we couple that with the offensive work that we do as well.
For sure. You talk about putting pressure on your defense. Like you try to put as much pressure on the team defense as possible. How do you do that? Like, what are you simulating there?
So our outfielders will be our base runners for team defense. And so we'll work on multiple things. Our offense, and sometimes we'll mix in some secondary infielders into the base running. And so we'll work on our first and third defenses.
Okay.
We'll work on, early breaks. We'll work on double steals and ask the defense to respond to what our base runners are doing. So, pitchers will have to react to things. They have to field bunts. Catchers will, run backside picks. They'll have to call verbals to third baseman and pitchers of where to go with the baseball. So, and our outfield coach, who's also our first base coach, he does a good job of kind of riling up our outfielders, and he tells them, do not let them tag you out. Mm-hmm. Run down. Don't let them tag you out. First and third offense, don't let them throw you out. So it's actually a point of pride for our outfielders to make the defense look bad, because that's what we want them to try to do. Sometimes they succeed, right? Or especially early in the year. But I tell our guys, hey, if we get 5 in a row, we're done. Like, to me, you've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. So we don't run them over and over and over again. We eventually get to a point in our season where I say 5 in a row and we're done. So some days team defense might take 10 minutes. Some days it might take an hour, but I always tell them, hey, you guys are determining how long this is, not me. Yeah. You get 5 in a row, we're moving on, right? But if we're not handling the baseball, clearly we have some underlying issues that we need to get better at.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is it always 5 in a row? You kind of start there?
We don't start there. When we start the season, it is more time-based. Like, I will set aside 15 to 25 minutes.
Just where?
Yeah, and because I want to, at that point, we're still implementing. You got sophomores who are on varsity the first time, so you're still implementing things and going over who's supposed to be where, what the play's trying to accomplish, why we're doing what we're doing. But once that is all known by all coaches and all players, now it's about showing that you can execute it. So if you show me you can execute it and you execute 5 different team defenses in a row, we can move on. So, early April, that's usually when I'll throw down that, hey, let's get 5 in a row. Let's get 7 in a row. Maybe, just depending. But when we get into, late April, early May, it's like, hey, show me 5 in a row and we're moving on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome stuff, man. We're just rolling here, man. This is great. Love all the cool baseball stuff, man. Because it's already been over an hour. We've been sitting here over an hour now just talking baseball.
I know.
It's freaking wild, man. It is great. Oh man. Base running. you had mentioned about, you kind of segmented practice within like your team defense, your position stuff. Will your base running stuff, because like you said, you've got guys that can burn it, and then so putting your base running as part of your BP, is that the time you teach it, like during your BP session, or is it lead up to then now it's part of BP?
So it depends on what we're trying to accomplish. So so the live reads part of our base running is during BP.
Okay.
If we are focusing on things like dirt ball reads, turns, reading coaches at third base, that'll be something that we do at the end of practice, just solely focusing on that. Steal breaks, things of that nature. So, much like everything else I've talked about, base running to me is very, very important. But I actually elevated a little bit with our guys because I tell them base running is one of the few things in the game that you have 100% control over, right? Like you can't control if you hit a ball hard at somebody. You can't control what the pitcher's throwing you. You can't control where the ball's hit. You can't control how hard the ball's hit at you. But the one thing that you can do is control how you base run 100% of the time, how hard you run, your reads. We put an emphasis on, the extra 90. So I always tell our guys, like, we are running until the other team does their job and stops us. It's not the other way around. Like, we're not just going to first base and then seeing if we can go to second base. Like, we are going to second base out of the box until the left fielder catches the ball cleanly, sets his feet, and makes a good throw into the infield. They have stopped us. Now we'll get back to the bag. But we're always thinking about the next base. So, we talk about the philosophies at the end of practice, what we're trying to accomplish, with our turns, what we're trying to accomplish with our leads, what we're trying to accomplish with our dirt ball reads. So that mentality, we kind of tend to focus on that at the end of practice. The reads off the bat is obviously things that we can work on. We can really only work on during batting practice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's understandable. Oh shoot, man, that was awesome. If people want to like talk more baseball, because we can sit here and talk a lot more, or get into more some of the BP stuff, things you're doing, what's the best way to maybe reach out and contact you to talk some more baseball?
They can email me.
Yeah.
I gave you one email. I'll give you another one too. Okay. It's Coach Palumbo, ASHS@gmail.com.
Palumbo, ASHS at gmail.com.
Yeah, ASHS. So Archbishop Spalding High School, but ASHS at gmail.com.
Very cool, man. Just like finishing up, man, just like as we go here, like any kind of final thoughts that you kind of have, just kind of as we kind of went like kind of full, like we talked a lot, man. Like we just rolled since we get like from culture and your 3 C's, and now all the way got into base running, like specific things, or even just like our defensive progression. Like you kind of got in all that. Like, what kind of final thoughts do you have? Like maybe like something we might not have hit on, or like maybe reviewing, or just kind of, I don't know, just thinking about just like your final thoughts of the stuff, man.
It's obviously we are very passionate about this game. To sit here and talk for an hour about how we do things and just go back and forth, and I think there's a lot of good resources out there for people to learn from. A lot of great people. So, anything that I talked about today, like, it's not like I invented it. It's, whether it's the approach, whether it's things I mentioned in base running, like I didn't go into too many specifics, but it's, I learned these from other coaches. My dad was a college coach. I was blessed to grow up in a, household where I was going to a college practice from the time I was 6 to 10 years old. Like it's, so, as a coach, what can you learn today? Like what can you learn from somebody else? It might be Nick Saban talking about football, but I can learn from Nick Saban coaching football, right? Like, I love watching video clips of him. I love watching video clips of Kobe Bryant talking about his work ethic and kind of how he expected things from his teammates for them to be great. So I just in terms of coaching and even players, if you're listening, like don't get so caught up in I have to listen to this baseball coach. Like, there's a lot of great people out there. We talked about it a little bit with multi-sport athletes.
Yeah.
Just learn as much as you can about what it takes to be really good at what you want to do. And if it's baseball, great. But one of my favorite things about this game is if you put the work in to be successful at baseball, taking that same mentality, you're going to be successful in whatever you end up doing in life or you decide to do in life. And I'll be honest, that was one of my proudest moments as a coach. One of my seniors this past year, he's like, "Coach, I love playing for you." He's like, I know I didn't play that much, but you like taught me how, if I want to be great at something, how to approach doing it. I'm like, man, thank you. Like, that's such a mature way of looking at it. And I think as coaches, we just need to understand that we're having a really big impact on these kids, whether they're starting every day or whether they're, the 20th guy on the roster. And just understand that with the way you are teaching things and how you're approaching your players and your team.
Coach Joe Palumbo from Archbishop Spalding, just loving the conversation. Loved how we just hit the ground running, man. Went over a ton of baseball stuff. There's some conversations you just get right into it, man. We just speak the same language, same philosophies. Just loving how he talked about living his principles. The character, the commitment, the championships. Those are all things that he's just trying to live in his own life. Because leadership right now, leadership is not about something that's said. Years back, 20, 30 years ago, you could say it but not walk it. You have to walk it. Kids are going to see right through it. You're going to get more buy-in. Only the best coaches are living what they're living their standards. That's exactly what Coach Palumbo talked about within his character, with his commitment and his champions. Living his life, trying to do the very best he can. We're all not perfect. We're not trying to, but at least these are the same things. If it's important for us to live it, knowing that that's how the kids should live it. And that's the standards that we're going to provide. That's what exactly he's talking about. So can't thank him enough for that very, very valuable information. Can't thank the guys, Will Mine and Lending Pros guys, man. Check those guys out. Be sure that you check out Coach Palumbo as well. Feel free to email them at Coach Palumbo, ashs@gmail.com. Coach Palumbo at ashs@gmail.com. Archbishop Spalding High School at gmail.com. Great follows on Twitter. Check those guys out. They continue to do it the right way. They continue to be ultra competitive in a crazy competitive league, crazy talented league. And just really, really excited to have this conversation with him, and looking forward to the next time we get to talk some good baseball. So it's a great baseball conversation. Love the good talking to great baseball guys, and Coach Palumbo was that dude. So again, Coach Palumbo, appreciate you guys hanging on with us. Feel free to reach out with any questions, guys that you think might be great guests for the show, as well as anything that we went over that maybe you have a question about. We're happy to talk about it, happy to help. It's exactly what this is for. So the guys that are learning to grow the game, make the game better, leave it better than we found it. So thanks again for everything. Keep getting better.